Hi, welcome to Pink Lion Podcast. I'm Cindy Smuck, your host. Today, I have a treat for all of you. Viktoria Santo, my mentor and friend, is here with me in the studio. Welcome in, Viktoria.
Yay! Hi, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You are welcome. You are really doing me a favor, and obviously the viewers and listeners. Everybody, Viktoria was instrumental in the whole Pink Lion journey. She watched it happen from the beginning and watched me become and develop into a medium. She was very helpful with the whole journey for me. But we're not here to talk about me today. We're here to talk about you, Viktoria. And I wanted the viewers and listeners to hear your story, your journey. Could you tell us a little bit about how you started to recognize the signs or the feelings or whatever you were feeling to kind of have you go, this is something, the unfolding of your mediumship and where that led?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm gonna go back to the very beginnings here and start with I grew up in Hungary. Your listeners will hear the accent. Um, and growing up, I did not have any religious background. We weren't really in that system, in the socialist communist system back then. Religion wasn't really encouraged anyways. So I had this idea of once you're gone, you're gone. That's really what I grew up with. I did not have any crazy experiences. If I did, I probably just ignored it. I truly cannot pinpoint to anything other than I remember when I was about 4 years old, my grandparents had cats and they always had kittens as well. And I remember playing with the kittens and just kind of thinking to myself at 4 years old, I wonder what these kittens were before they were born kittens. So that was about it. I did not think too much of it, but that kind of stayed with me because I somehow knew that there's more to this.
Right.
But really, there was nothing specific where I see things. A lot of times you hear that, kids, when they were kids, they had certain experiences or um, anything like that. I did not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so fast forward to when I was living in the Cayman Islands.
And what time was that? What age were you?
So let me just see here. That would have been my early to mid 20s,
Okay.
really. We went through category 5 hurricane and it completely decimated the island. It was very, very difficult for several weeks. And I just felt like I needed something to keep me grounded. The outside world was completely destroyed. We didn't have power for 5 weeks, running water for a couple of weeks. So it was a difficult time. And just seeing all the devastation, I felt like if I don't anchor myself somehow, I'm just going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing this. I found this little online meditation. And it really was nothing more than just a body relaxation. You go through the physical body, and then you kind of go through this guided imagining something better, basically. But it put me in such a nice, relaxed state
Mm-hmm.
that I felt very much like I needed that. And so I kept doing this every day. That was my little safe haven.
Nice.
And the more I started to do this, I started to realize that in that state of being very calm and relaxed, certain things would come to me or certain feeling. I started to sense more. That's really what it was. And that really piqued my interest, because all of a sudden I started to have kind of like thoughts and images pop in my mind, almost like I started seeing faces, and I didn't know who these people were. It looked like still pictures, like, old pictures, and it's all just different people's faces, but I found it very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of started to propel me into, what is this? I know I'm not losing my mind. This actually feels like I'm just watching a movie. And so from that point on, I started looking into, maybe guides or what's happening. I wanted to understand. And I found this article, I think it was about a book. I can't remember the title of the book, but about being psychic, basically.
Okay.
And I thought, maybe this is what's happening, right? So I started really looking at this. And once I saw these faces, I started to kind of just be open to, maybe I'm seeing guides. I didn't know it was other side or anything like that. Maybe I'm seeing these guides. And so I went into, the next time I did my meditation, I went into this, I want to communicate with someone, if these are
Right.
guides, I need their advice, because my life is a mess on the outside. And I started to feel guidance coming to me. It wasn't really a communication, like I'm hearing anything, someone's talking to me. It was just somehow telepathically some things were communicated to me.
Interesting.
And in one of these instances, I just knew that something big is about to happen. And of course, I wanted to know, what is this? I need to prepare whatever that big thing is. But I wasn't getting anything. I just had this feeling of something big is about to happen. And it did. And I'm glad I didn't know ahead of time. But what happened was, I actually had a near-death experience. I was totally by myself. There was no physical trauma, but I had a really bad headache. And I went to go lie down just to kind of get better, because I usually don't get headaches. And so I was just trying to relax through whatever the pain it was. And all of a sudden, I popped out of my body. Not necessarily popped out, I shot out of my body.
Wow.
And in that state, I felt like I went through the entire universe within a split second, in a weird way. It felt very long and very short in the same time. And I did find myself hovering above a lake.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was hovering, I didn't have a body, just like in your dreams, you don't see a physical body usually. You are just there. So I was just there, and I could see everything in such details, like the ripples on the water, rocks, everything. And just by thinking, I could move forward, like glide forward and then come back. So I was just doing this for a while, because I thought, oh my God, this is fun. I did not think like where I am. I was just so amazed by everything. Like I completely forgot to worry. It was just like,
Right.
wow, this is great. Because I didn't feel like my life is in danger or something bad is
Right.
happening. It was just more like, wow, it just happened. And so in that state, as I said, I'm just looking around and just trying to observe and take it all in. And then all of a sudden, I realized that I can not only just see everything in great details that's in front of me looking down, but I actually can see 360 degrees
What?
around me. It's
Wow.
literally, I'm looking down, but I'm also in the same time aware of every leaf on every tree, like
Oh my God.
everything. And it's very
Wow.
hard to even put it into words, because we are so limited in the physical, right?
Right. Right.
But I was just taking it all in. And then all of a sudden I became aware of a presence coming to me. And this presence, it wasn't a face. I could only see the outline. And this present looked like, I don't know if you know the statue on the top of the mountain in Rio de Janeiro. The
I've
statue is called,
channeled it before for some reason.
Christ the
Yes, yes.
Redeemer with the open, outstretched arms.
Right.
And so that's the outline I saw with like pulsating colors. And by the way, the colors were so alive, so different from what we see here. Like not different like different shades, but just vibrant, very, very much alive, pulsating with aliveness. And so as this entity came closer with the arm outstretched, the closer it came, the more waves of love were just washing over me. And I felt like I cannot contain that much love. Like I'm just gonna burst into a million pieces. And I made this decision in my mind, like, I don't know where I am, but I'm not going back to where I came from. I know that much because the love and everything is just so insanely beautiful, but also you feel part of it. Like you are part of everything, right?
So
You
the
don't want to
oneness.
be a separate
Right.
anyone anymore.
Right.
And so in that state, I knew that my family would be sad. But yet I had this feeling of all is well. Nothing could ever happen. So I was happy with my decision, but clearly it wasn't my time because as soon as I formulated that thought, that actually slammed me back in my physical body. And I woke up with this, like I need to breathe, like I wasn't breathing for a while. And then I spent the next 10 years trying to get back without doing anything harmful. But I actually did learn to do astral traveling, which if your listeners don't know about it, this is something that we basically do, whether you're aware of it or not, when you sleep. You are somewhat disconnect from your body, like you loosen up a little bit. You are not just in your physical body. And in that state, consciousness can experience, just like dream state, that's a different state of consciousness. You can experience different realities, so to speak. And so I did this just so I can get back to that place. And I couldn't. There was nothing that could take me there. But these experiments actually led me to really want to explore this new realm in the physical world as well. So I became interested in learning to use my abilities after this in a different way. And again, my goal was to get back. Like that was my only goal. Like I just want to find a way to get back to that love because that love is so intoxicating. And I started to train with a psychic detective. And so her approach was psychic work. So there was no mediumship connecting with loved ones. It's more about picking up clues. And she works a lot with missing people. She actually works with law enforcement. So I thought that's what I wanted to do. And I did this for a while, training with her for a couple of years. And then she would also give us some cases that were solved so she can give us feedback. And there was one case where I just couldn't get anything. I knew the lady was on the other side. We were already given that information. And so out of frustration, because I couldn't pick up anything, I just finally asked her, like, what happened to you? And all of a sudden I started to get thoughts and images coming to me, and I was like, wait, is this true? So I wrote it down because I wasn't getting anything else, and it turned out to be very correct. And so
Wow.
that was my first aha moment, thinking like, oh, wait, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there is a way to communicate with the other side. And you would think that after having a near-death experience, knowing that you went someplace and you were okay and you were very much experiencing love, I still didn't connect the dots until, a couple of years later when I was having that experience with the psychic detective. And that really then piqued my interest. And I thought, you know what, maybe that's what I want to find out more about. Now, in the same time, what's also happening is certain cases we worked on were very difficult emotionally.
Yeah.
Whether it's missing children or certain circumstances, it's very emotionally tasking.
Right.
So that happening, and then now I'm realizing more, maybe there's a way of connecting with the other side. So I started to find friends and practice on their loved ones, and then other people who I didn't know, just kind of started to go in that direction because I found it fascinating. And that's really just how things started to happen. Now, I am a very logical minded person. And I fought this for a long time. And then I started watching other people doing it, and everyone was talking about like how they knew they were psychic or mediums when they were children. They were talking to
Hmm.
other side and all that. And I did not have any of this. So I kept feeling like I'm somehow just, I don't know, maybe I'm just delusional, maybe I don't have the ability. But I kept getting the feedback, whatever I was saying was right. But yet I still wanted to hear voices or see things. Like some people would see physical apparitions. I never had that opportunity. Some people hear things outside of themselves. Never had any of that. So I thought this, am I a medium or am I just delusional um, for a long time? And then I really started to watch as to how am I even getting that information. And it turned out that 99% of the time so comes through my own thoughts and my
Hmm.
own feelings. So that really made me look at it differently, in a way where if it's coming from within me through my own thoughts and feelings, then they must be closer to me than I realize.
Right.
I don't have to look outside to hear the voices or have those experiences. It's within me, and
Hmm.
it happens through my own thoughts and feelings. And I think that's what people don't realize, because everyone, mostly because of the influences we've gotten through
Hmm.
media and, mediums who have that type of story, um, everyone thinks that something has to come from outside. But what I found is that it's not true. And you are already communicating with the other side. It's just, it's through your own thoughts and feelings. So you don't necessarily realize that this is happening.
I know that
But
when it started happening to me, I mean, I came to you initially because I thought that I was going crazy. And I really wanted some validation because I too am very logical with my mind. I'm very practical. And I thought, why am I hearing this man who just crossed not too long ago? But if this medium who's never met me before, she's in a completely different state than I reside. if she can pick up on anything that just happened or anything about dad that can validate any of this for me, I'll believe it. That's what I told myself. And I know you don't always remember what happens in your reading, so I won't ask you, do you remember what happened? Um, but it was in those thoughts that you had as I sat there and you kind of were putting it together that I had just been on this long trip with my mother, which happened to be my mother-in-law. It's very hard to distinguish sometimes
Mhm.
as a medium. And that we had just been on this very long road trip, but we weren't alone. That there was this man there with us. And so when you said that, I can't when I'm gonna cry because like when you're alone, and I'm sure you felt this way too initially. When you're alone with those thoughts, thinking you're going kind of cuckoo and you don't know what's happening to you, it's very scary.
It is. Yeah, it
And you
can be.
feel alone because you can't
Yeah.
really talk to anybody about it
Yeah.
because people judge you or
Mhm.
they'll think that you're losing your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be a very lonely journey,
Absolutely.
especially if you come from a family who aren't maybe open to this, or even if they are open to this, if one day you just say, hey, I'm hearing these things in my mind, they might think you need some, mental
Mental
health
health.
care. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So I had that same thing. I did not have anyone to share this with. Um, but I just find it so hard not to investigate it further. Maybe that's the logical mind. I wanted to understand what's
Me
happening.
too. Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
So when you were going through this last piece before I interrupted you, and you're experiencing these feelings and thoughts, I mean, I know that we talk about it all the time of it being subtle, like a whisper. Because
yeah.
I don't always hear it either. I don't hear things. They can't communicate with a voice box. They don't have a body. They come to us in different ways. You want to explain this to the audience and kind of how it works for you?
Yes, it is. It can be very subtle. We might have some moments where, sometimes it's almost like you hear a voice, turn this way or turn that way. And it might still be your own thought voice, but it's a very strong push, like I need to do something.
Hmm.
And in that case, you might not even think about it. You just do it, right? But there's other times, and being a psychic and a medium, I should know this, but I still fall into the trap of not listening to myself
Hmm.
in that way, where, for example, I don't like to go grocery shopping. So if I have to go, I'm gonna have a list. I write down everything. I go through the aisles as quick as possible, get what I need, and I'm out of there. So when I go, like, let's say I have my list and I happen to walk by, I don't know, condiments, and I look at ketchup and like, mm, it just kind of stands out. So I don't necessarily stay there and should I not? I don't have to. I just kind of I look, not on my list, move on, right? Only to come home and realize I don't have any ketchup. So it could be just that one tiny, it's not even a conscious thought. You just have a second of it just draws your attention. It
I
can be
call him.
just that
I c-
subtle.
I call it a ping. Like I'm getting a ping on something.
Yeah, yeah, just a tiny
Yeah.
something, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times you see this retrospect, hindsight is
Mhm.
2020. But the more you are just open to experiencing, the more you will see what are those thoughts that really are important and what are the thoughts that just your mind just kind of, you know, autopilot talks about
Right.
all the things. But that's really what it is. For me, it has become very much like it's coming from within me, my own thoughts and feelings. And even in readings to this day, they sound like my own thoughts and feelings. So I stopped wanting to hear their voice. And every now and then it happens. I hear a really quick word that I know it feels like I'm hearing their voice. But for the most part, like 99% of the time, it's literally my own voice that I'm hearing in my mind. But because I'm in that state of being open, I know that these thoughts are not really coming from me, the person. It's coming from something much bigger. So I think a lot of times, as I said, people are expecting some outside thought, outside sounding voice, or seeing something. And that's why they're missing those signs, because it's a lot closer. It's coming within your own thoughts and within your own feelings.
Yeah, for me, when because I remember we had this conversation early on for me. I started to recognize what would be a Cindy thought and what
Mm-hmm.
is not a Cindy thought.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of pops in. It's random. It's
Exactly.
there. It's in
Exactly.
no context of what I was just thinking. Okay.
Exactly.
So it's like some people might call it like, sorry to use this word, but like brain fart, right? Where like you're running along and then you get a blank, but you run
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
along
yeah.
and then something else is there completely different. So like we're talking about like this very interesting subject and all of a sudden I could be like jelly beans and they're like, "What?"
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
it's like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so all of a sudden you'll get an image of jelly beans or you'll hear the word of your in your own head from your own voice saying jelly beans, or like you might just, I don't know, intuit it or think it or something, but it's there and it's random. And so
Exactly. That's what happens. These thoughts, you might be washing the dishes, like you're not
mhm,
thinking about anything and anyone, and you might all of a sudden start thinking about grandma for no apparent reason, right?
mhm.
Or you might start thinking about someone living who you haven't seen or heard from for a while, and you go like, oh, I wonder what's going on with this one. So, you might have I actually had that with a friend of mine. There was a gal I went to school with, and that
Mhm.
was primary school. So I did not see her since we were 14. We went in different directions. And when I was around 30-ish, all of a sudden Facebook was already getting big, and I was trying to find friends, from back when I was a
Yeah.
child, and I couldn't find this person. And I kept feeling like I need to find her. And so I reached out to other people. Do you know what's going on with her? No one knew anything about her. And I had this feeling of, I need to find her. So I finally tracked down her. I remembered she had an older sister, and it took me some detective work to get there, but I tracked her down, and it turned out that she just passed. She had
Hmm.
breast cancer. So that
Whoa.
several months that I've been trying to find her, I just had this urge, like I really want to reconnect with her. I
Right.
didn't know, I could not expect that she was having cancer.
Right.
Um, and so sadly, I couldn't reconnect with her before she passed. But yes, that was just one of those innate, like you don't know why, but you're just kind of feeling drawn to doing something. And again,
Mhm.
there's just that subtleness, Why am I thinking about this person? But we just
Right.
don't stop and think. We just like, oh, there's just another thought.
Yeah, because we have so many throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And we're so busy, we're so drowned in work and kids and life and whatever that ourselves, like, we don't
Exactly.
think about these other things, these subtleties. We don't pay attention to them.
Exactly. It's just another thought in your mind, right?
Right.
And we have this with ideas as well. When you have a great idea, we even say it, I got it. It came
Mhm.
to me. It dropped in my mind. It came out of left field. What we try to express those sentiments. Yet we don't stop and think, okay, if I got it, where did that come from?
Right.
Like we just stop at, hey, I got it, this is great. But we don't investigate any further. So where did that come from? How did that come? And if you start really look at it, you become very open, because where did that come from, right? You have to become open to try to see where it came from. And that's really all that's needed. You just have to be in that state of being receptive, being open, and things will come to you. You don't have to work at it at all. It just will come to you. How many times, this happens to me so many times, when I try to remember something or someone's name, right? And you try and try and try, and you can't. As soon as you stop thinking about it, which is
Boom.
let it go, it just bam right there, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes in the middle of the night, I
It,
just, oh my God, yeah, I remember this person's name from 5th grade, 2 o'clock in
yeah.
the morning. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
But
Because you
that's
took your attention off of it, and then
exactly. You just,
yeah.
your attention, when you pay attention to something, whatever it is, it's a narrowing. It's a, like you go from being very open to a very narrow funneling of that energy. And it
Mm-hmm.
can be very useful in many things, but not when it comes to connecting with other side. Like, I think that's another pitfall for people when they really want a connection. And obviously you want to connect with your loved ones. But
Right.
when you want something, you become very tight. You
Mm-hmm.
want it. And in that state of being tight, it's very hard to receive. Like, it's there. It's gonna be a little bit harder for the person to see it, because they are very much in the energy of wanting.
Mm-hmm.
So even when you do want the communication, and in those cases, you will find that when you want something, which basically signals to the universe that there's a lack. I want something because I don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that state, you will continue not seeing the signs, because you're closed, you're in a very tight space in a way, energetically. But also in that wanting, you're telling the universe, I don't have what I want.
Mm. Yeah.
So when you can just let go of that wanting, trust, even when you trust, you become open. You let go of the wanting and you go like, you know what? I'm just gonna see what happens. I put my intentions out there, and now I'm just gonna see what happens. I have to trust that if there is truly another side, something will happen that they will let me know. But you have to become very open, meaning letting it go, letting go of the desire.
Mm. Yeah, I do totally understand that, because that has been a struggle of mine, especially at the beginning and mostly up until recently. Sometimes I get stuck a lot. Like, I get stuck sometimes. So I have to maneuver around it, and then of course it opens up when I let go.
Exactly.
Um but I think we all can kind of do that. But one of the things that I find that people become even resistant to. Resistance has been like a big theme for me this whole time.
All of
And
us.
just surrendering and trusting and letting it be, right? I have to listen to that
Exactly.
Beatles song over
Yeah,
and over.
let
Let
it
it
be.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And just trust and surrender and not
yeah,
have to
yeah.
control every little
Mm.
thing. But a lot of people are they live their lives in fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times these things, they feel like they're going to open a portal and bad stuff is
Mm-hmm.
going to come in.
Yeah.
Can you explain how this actually works? Because I don't know what to say. I
So,
try to tell people this isn't a thing,
yeah.
but yeah.
So I think our preconceived notions about, what it would be. Again, that could come from family background,
Sure.
religious background. It could come from media. Um, I was in that sense very lucky that I didn't have maybe a religious understanding, because
Mm.
I thought, once you're gone, that's it. So that was a little bit of advantage for me, I think, in a way. But what also happens is that when you are in that state of fear, you will maybe attract to you the same energy, because whatever you're experiencing, the outside, so to speak, outside, cannot be any different than what is on the inside. So when I actually started this journey, I read a book by Jane Roberts, and she was channeling this entity called Seth. She's got many books. One of the most famous ones is Seth Speaks. And so Jane Roberts was not a medium herself, yet through meditation, somehow she started to channel this entity who ended up being absolutely amazing. Talk about, universe and parallel universes and all these things that Jane had no idea about. And so after my near-death experience and talking with guides and all that, that's what I thought, like, oh, maybe I should try this. So I was
Mhm.
living in the Cayman Islands at that time. And Jane Roberts, according to her book, she started with a Ouija board. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm just going to get one, right?
Mhm.
I've never seen one. I didn't know how it works. I didn't have the preconceived notion that it could be bad, like some
Right.
people do. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to try it. Now, at that time, again, I was still living in the Cayman Islands. And the Cayman Islands, at that time at least, has been very religious, so to speak. Um, there's as many churches as banks on the island. And so I ordered my Ouija board. I had a couple of weeks passes. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. I don't know what's going on. So I called, the place I ordered it from in the US, and oh, we sent it. I didn't get it. Turned out that custom actually seized it because it was deemed witchcraft.
Oh,
And God, I
jeez.
didn't, get arrested or something for it.
Right.
But I thought, oh, I thought it was just a tool, right?
Right.
And so if I had some fear about it already, then I would have very likely brought in something to match that energy, right?
Mhm.
But because I did not, and then of course I didn't have any tools to rely on, I just went on doing it without any tools. But one thing I find that people are fearing, whatever it is, the Ouija board or tarot cards or something they fear, but it's really not the object itself that's the problem. It's the fear that's behind it. And that's really why we want to control. We want to control life because we are afraid.
Mm.
So it's all about controlling. And when you control, by the way, you're afraid, you are again very tight. You're not in an open state by any means.
Right.
So I think we all have that innate fear, like we come with that. And so for some people, it manifests, fear of the other side. As I said, if you have the background to add to it, it will be more. Or, seeing, like for one, I do not like scary movies at all.
I don't
I
anymore
could
either.
not watch
Mm-mm.
anything scary. Um, but a lot of times people, when they watch these things or, some movies about extortion or whatever it is, it gets in your mind somehow that, okay, I'm safe because I'm just watching it, but what if this really exists? So you're dealing with your own fear. And so in order to really be able to communicate, you have to look at those fears.
Mm-hmm.
I had in my my astral travel experiences, one time I was out of my body and I was in our home walking around in my energy body, walking around in the hallway. And where we have a standing vase in the hallway, instead there was a black snake coiled. And I got not that I'm afraid of snakes. I am a little bit afraid of snakes, but I just have this, I don't know, apprehension.
Right.
And
Right.
so as soon as I saw that, it really scared me and I jumped right back in my physical body. But I thought afterwards, like, why was there a snake there? But it really was my fear that was there, and that fear had to manifest
Yeah.
one way or another.
Yeah.
So in the physical world, we have a buffer of time. Whatever we are feeling, we don't manifest it right away. It takes time, right? But
Mm-hmm.
in other subtler realms, there is no buffer of time. So you're facing whatever you're fearing. It's gonna be right there. And so I think mediumship can be a very good way to really look at those fears inside
Yep.
and
Yep.
start removing those fears. And some will be obviously easier, some will be very difficult. And those difficult fears, you don't want to feed them by either pushing it away or really try to rationalize why it shouldn't be. You have to face it, meaning you have to sit with it. You just have to accept it's there. And as soon as you face it and allow its space to just be there, it dissipates on its own. And that's really what happened to me throughout the mediumship, because at first, even though I wasn't brought up with fears around the other side, I had some innate apprehension for sure, but I could probably say fear of dying as well. And what could be on the other side. And, you hear, I don't know, some stories about people having really bad experiences, which a lot of times people, when they have like night terror type of experiences, it's literally the same thing happening. You are in your physical body, yet you aren't quite in your mind is not the normal, I gotta do this. It's a lot quieter, calmer state, right? So in that state, you are already a lot more open and receptive. But in that state, if you experience fear, you will see that fear outside. So
Interesting.
sometimes people might feel like, oh, there's someone at the foot of their bed and they feel fear. Or I remember, I don't know if you did this, I'm sure every kid has some fear in the dark, right? I know I was very afraid for a long time. And that's sometimes when little kids see scary things. But again, it's because they have the fear inside already and it's showing up on the outside that way. Or I know one fear for many people is when they wake up in the middle of the night and they can't move. They feel like they are, just stuck in the body, or someone sitting on their chest, or whatever's happening. But what really happens is that in that state of being open, your mind is perceiving other things. But in that state of being open, you can't control your fears either. It takes energy to keep it pushed away, or, just when you're in
Right.
that state of being open, you're not controlling your fears. So they
Right.
are coming up. And because you're afraid of them, you're not consciously being able to say, oh, okay, I'm dealing with my own fear. You will see those fears on the outside in the form of, whatever happening on the outside. You don't even have to be in the state of being asleep or somewhat that state of half asleep, half
Mm.
awake. Sometimes it can happen just in your daily life. If you are carrying a lot of fear, you will see that manifest on the outside. If you are afraid of, like, let's say you have this idea of there's bad spirits. And again, I can only talk about my own experiences. I'm not
Mhm.
discounting anyone else's experience, but in my experience, if I have a fear, um, it's gonna show up on the outside so I can justify that fear, right?
Right. Yeah, I always think of your snake story every time I hear somebody's story about fear or a ghost or whatever, and my own, which when all of this happened and I could feel dad's energy and he wasn't setting my nervous system into like oblivion. But anytime I was picking up on another energy, right, I was starting to feel anxious and
Mm-hmm.
I felt
Yeah.
my skin. I wanted to crawl out of my skin. I was feeling all these vibrations and it was very weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember specifically I was down in their basement there in Omaha and could feel dad with me and I'm trying to pack things up and clean things up for mom, but I felt something evil in there. Is like I'm air quoting
Mm-hmm.
evil.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. It was just a different energy because that was the house that they built from the ground up. No one had died there. There had nothing bad happened there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about how you feel, but I just don't feel energies are attached to places. I feel like they're attached to people more than they are places. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. Um So I couldn't square the fact that dad's energy was there, who I perceived to be very good and loving and kind, like he was here. How could that exist in the same spot as something evil or bad or scary, right? And I think it occurred to me at that moment, I'm like, oh, I must be feeling somebody else's energy. And it's just making me, it's like new. It's making me
Mm-hmm.
kind of go off like an antenna or something.
Yes,
So
and once you start facing those fears, they dissipate.
totally dissipated. It
Yeah.
completely went away. And I have not felt anything bad ever since. Nothing. I just don't fear it anymore. I don't fear it. Number one, I'm not introduced to it. You and I have talked over and over about that. Like I just don't, I don't know. I don't experience it. Just like you.
And that's why I feel like people really need to face some of those fears. And of course, as I said, facing the fear of dying, like I'm not safe, something could happen to me. That's a huge one for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you really start sitting with that fear, you will realize that it's your resistance to wanting to experience that fear that really hurts. It's never the emotion, whatever emotion we're talking about, it's never the emotion that really hurts. It's your resistance to wanting to experience it. I know I've had some people who have
Mm,
come for readings despite of their fear of, being
yeah.
judged because they were brought up in certain religions or they doing something wrong. And at
Mm,
the end,
yeah.
they were like, oh my God, this feels so good because again, they not only faced their fears, but then they did get the validation of there was nothing to fear in the first place. But until you take that step to face those fears, you will be stuck in that loop.
I
And
had
then
a
of
client
course,
yesterday.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
sorry. Oh, no,
No, I was
and
just
of
gonna
course,
Feel free.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
get out of
no,
your way.
tell me.
No, you finish because you'll finish your
Okay,
thought and
yeah.
then I'll go.
Yeah. No, and of course, if you just reference back to any movies you've seen or someone said something like, be careful, don't ever open, the Ouija board or something, then those fears will just amplify and emotions are extremely strong creators. Emotion is energy in motion.
Right.
And whatever you're experiencing, again, you will manifest.
You know what I find interesting is that people tend to believe in ghosts or those sort of haunted things, but then they
Mhm.
can't wrap their mind around the fact that there actually is another side.
Yeah.
That is the other side. Like that's another side of the other side or something if you want to like break it down
Yeah.
that way, but it's like, okay, how can that exist but this great thing over here, this love thing over here not exist? It's just it's it's indoctrination at its finest is what it is, but it's also quite humorous if we actually want to break it down. I don't even remember what I was going to say. So we'll let that just kind of float by, but I really appreciate you coming on today. I know that you've got to get moving. So I'm gonna take your time. Did you have any last thoughts that you wanted to add? Because I know I'm gonna have you on again, so we can always tackle a couple other topics at that time. But would you like to add anything else before we finish for today?
What I would like to tell people is that if you have any inclination or just a little bit of desire or curiosity to see if you are psychic, which we all are, if as long as you have thoughts and
Yep.
feelings, you have everything it takes. If you have just a little bit of inclination, like I really would like to connect with my loved ones, but there's also this fear of what if this happens, or even if you just feel like, oh, I'm just gonna be making all this up. Let those fears be there. It's okay that they are there, but in the meantime, try to be open. Accept, okay, I have these fears, but I just want to be open and see if maybe there is something to it. I don't need to know how the information will come to me. I don't need to pay attention to my thoughts constantly or look for signs outside. Just become relaxed and say, okay, if there is really another side, or if there's really a way to communicate with my loved ones, show it to me. And just be open. And whatever arises, even if there's fear with it, just let it be. Just see what happens. All you need to do is to be open. You've got everything else.
Right. I totally tend to agree. Tend to agree because I think also people start thinking about what this could mean, how people would judge. They start going down these like little lanes into the rabbit hole versus just being present and just allowing to be what is. That's the surrender part of it. Just sit with it, open up, be open, and
And
be in
in
that
that
moment.
state, exactly, in that state, you will know, you will experience this. It's not even going to be questionable.
Right.
Or it might be just you all of a sudden just feel that sense of warmth coming over you. Just be open.
And don't have expectations.
Exactly.
Just say, hey, maybe I'll just feel relaxed. Maybe I'll just feel refreshed or whatever. There's got to be something that comes from it, but
Yeah.
we don't know
Yeah.
what that's going to be based on where you're at in life and what's going on, but just try it. Just try it.
Just be open to what would it be like to experience my loved ones? What would it be like if I could just communicate? I wonder what it would feel like. Because in that state, you are open.
Mhm.
And that's all that's needed. Don't try to get the information a certain way. It does not have to come the way you want it to come. In fact, if you just stay open, it's going to find the best way to come to you.
Right. That's exactly right. Yep. Victoria, Thank you so much for joining me today.
My
I think
pleasure.
I do think it's important that people who are I just feel like there's just so many people that have questions. They're just so they don't even know how close they are to really seeing things with new eyes, hearing things with new hearing, feeling things with new feelings. So, I don't know, give them something to think about and
Yeah,
they'll know themselves. We just
yeah,
have to offer the information. It's an invitation. That's all it can be.
absolutely. It's an invitation to be open. Be open to experience things your mind might have said, I don't think I can do that. Just be open. Maybe you could.
That's right. Because energy flows on the path of least resistance.
Exactly. It's all about being open. That's all you need to do.
Yeah,
Everyone is psychic. Everyone is a medium. If you just become open and willing to experience it.
that's right. Thank you so much for your time today, Victoria. And I'm sure you'll be back soon because I'm sure you're going to be a viewer favorite for sure.
I would love to be back. Thank you again for the opportunity.
You're
I
welcome.
really enjoyed it, and best wishes to everyone listening to this podcast. Hopefully, we will be able to offer you some more in the future.
Yeah, and if you guys have questions or comments you want to add to any of in the chats below, wherever forum this is attached to, feel free to ask questions. Victoria and I will be happy to read viewer questions on our next podcast and answer them.
Oh,
All
that
right.
would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Take care,
Yes,
Victoria.
you too. Thank you,
All right.
Cindy. Take
You're
care.
welcome. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.